Thank you all for being with us tonight for this historic Stand Up Republic convention. Every one of you is standing on the right side of history by being here, and I'm honored to stand with you. My name is Jennifer Horn. I'm a co-founder of the Lincoln Project and served as the New Hampshire Republican Party chairwoman for 4 years, including through the 2016 cycle. I have worked in the private sector, in nonprofit, and in the media. But the most important job I've ever had is being a mom. I have 5 wonderful children and 3 beautiful grandchildren. And I'm happy to share with you that grandson number 4 is on his way. Like most of you, I'm sure, everything I do is inspired by this overwhelming love that I have for my children. I first got involved in politics in 2008 when I ran for Congress and won the nomination in New Hampshire's 2nd District. I ran because I believed then, and I still believe today, that politics is supposed to be about public service, about making a better America for our children and for their children. I believed then, and I still believe today, that one voice can make a difference, that your voice can make a difference, that we are called as Americans to be a voice for freedom and equality and opportunity for all, and that we must, as parents and educators and public servants, always be a voice for the well-being of future generations. But even then, even when I was running for office as a Republican, I was always very clear that I am an American first. But I was proud to run as a Republican back then because I believed that we, the party of Lincoln, were the defenders of freedom, the defenders of equality and justice and liberty. I was inspired by Abraham Lincoln's words: those who deny freedom for others deserve it not for themselves. America is the greatest experiment ever launched, an experiment in self-governance, independence, and individual freedom. For 244 years, the United States of America has stood as a beacon of hope for freedom-seeking people everywhere. I believed that the Republican Party was a voice for those founding principles. And I believed that we Republicans were true patriots who would preserve freedom and democracy for all who would come after us. But that is not who the Republican Party is today. Under the presidency of Donald Trump, our country and freedom itself have suffered immeasurable harm. The American people are exhausted by his torrent of lies, incensed by his corruption, horrified, truly horrified by his bigotry and misogyny, and burdened in every way by his gross, dangerous incompetence. And through it all, Republican leaders have stood in silence, with their heads bowed, cowed by fear, and immobilized by weakness. They have allowed this president to trample on the foundational values of our nation and run roughshod over the Constitution. I am a lifelong Republican. I've dedicated much of my life to working to advance Republican principles and get Republicans elected. I have sacrificed for and fought for this party in every way. And yet I stand here today ashamed and appalled by the abject hypocrisy and systemic corruption of the Donald Trump Republican Party. Under this president, the party has abandoned even the pretense of being a defender of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. No party that endorses the caging of children for any reason, treating them like animals in a cheap zoo, using them as pawns in a cruel political game, can claim to be the party of life. A president who knowingly allows the spread of a deadly disease, who watches without emotion or care as our loved ones die alone in the ICU, who mocks the disabled, denies equal rights to the LGBT community, and treats women with hateful, humiliating contempt, is not a protector of the dignity and sanctity of human life. Republicans are no longer the party of a strong national defense, nor the party that provides for or protects our military. Every day, hundreds of thousands of America's sons and daughters wake up ready to sacrifice their lives in defense of ours. And yet, when it was learned that Donald Trump has ignored warnings that Vladimir Putin, one of our greatest geopolitical adversaries, has been paying bounties for the lives of our soldiers on the battlefield, bounties for the lives of our children who fight for us, Republican Party leaders stood impotent, either unable or simply unwilling to speak up for those who have died for freedom. Donald Trump has refused to condemn the racism of white supremacists. He has stoked the flames of racial unrest and daily incites hatred, anger, and fear among the American people. His bigotry and hateful rhetoric threaten the very foundation upon which freedom is built. And today, this president, who is supposed to be the leader of the free world, is abusing the power of the presidency to attack free and fair elections in our country. Donald Trump is declaring out loud and in the open what most politicians will only whisper. He is planning to lie, cheat, and steal if necessary to hold power. He is destroying a vital American institution, the United States Post Office, to do it. Again, without care for the millions of Americans who rely on the post office to stay connected, to run their small businesses, to receive their life-saving medical prescriptions, without care for your right to choose your own leaders by ballot, and without care for the irreparable damage that this is going to do to our free republic. Our founding fathers deemed that the post office was such an important institution that they enshrined it in the Constitution. Abraham Lincoln was one of only 2 presidents who also served as Postmaster General. But Donald Trump views it not as a means to connect the people to each other and to their government, but rather as a tool of his political corruption. A president who defends the Confederacy over the Constitution, chooses to divide rather than unite, is willing to literally and openly steal an election, and uses the fears and phobias of some people as a weapon against others, cannot lead a nation to the greatness we seek. There is nothing patriotic about defending such a president, even if he is an American president. In his farewell address, President George Washington warned his fellow Americans to guard against the imposters of pretended patriotism. The warning of our first president echoes through the halls of history and reverberates with truth as we gather together tonight. It is a false patriotism that calls for unquestioning loyalty to a political party that will not stand up to the tyrannical urges of a president who is out of control. And it is a false patriotism that demands acquiescence to a president who has proven his disregard for the Constitution and his unmitigated disdain for the people. Throughout the history of our great nation, in times of crisis and division, great leaders have risen above the petty politics of partisanship and called the American people together, uniting us in one purpose, one effort to preserve the American ideal of liberty and justice for all. In the face of war, depression, civil unrest, and attacks on our homeland, great American leaders have set aside their personal and party interests and placed country above self. That is what we are being called to do today. That is why all of us here tonight, and all those across this nation who declare themselves to be Americans first, must put country above politics. And that is why I stand here now and ask you, as Americans who love our country above our party, to join me in voting for Joe Biden for president. We must set aside our differences and unite as one people to safeguard the pillars of liberty upon which America was built. Joe Biden is not a perfect candidate. No one is. And I make no argument here tonight that he will be a politically conservative president. He will not. But I believe he is a good man and will be a strong and steady leader. I believe he loves our country, that he respects our Constitution, and will put the safety and well-being of the American people above himself. What I am asking is for you to vote for a return to decency, dignity, constitutional leadership, and selfless service in the White House. And in doing so, you will be voting to give our country a chance to survive, a chance to renew, a chance to protect the promise of America for our children and our grandchildren. We all know in our hearts, even if some are unwilling to say it out loud, that we cannot be both a great America and a Trump America. Freedom has no greater foe than the silence of otherwise decent people. Let this moment be our inspiration to join together in opposition to the forces that have tried so many times in the past to destroy what is right and good about our country. You know, all those years ago, when I first decided to get involved in the political process, I promised myself that I would never do or say anything that I could not explain to my children at the dining room table. My kids are all adults now, but I'm still led by that promise. I cannot vote for Donald Trump and still look my children in the eye over Sunday dinner. For decency, for dignity, for our children, for our country, let us speak in one voice and vote for Joe Biden for president. This is when your voice matters. Let our voices be heard as one. Let them be heard through the ages, that the United States of America soundly and forever rejects the bigotry, misogyny, and rank corruption of Donald Trump. Thank you for being here tonight, for caring so deeply about our country. I truly hope that you and your families are healthy and safe, and may God forever bless the United States of America. Thank you.